So you'll see the Crypt Keeper for a long time anyway. As far as new Tales from the Crypt episodes, it'll be in some different kind of form. We're going to do something with Tales from the Crypt, which is too bad because I love that genre of having a different show every week. Same way they did with Outer Limits or Tales from the Crypt. Twilight Zone or Night Gallery. All these great shows that had, each week you got different actors. You had, different directors. You had, it had a different feel to it. But each week you could depend on the Crypt Keeper doing something really sassy and crazy, stirring up fingers in a pan and going, "Would you like to try my lady fingers? They're delicious, so the lady was not so quick to part with them." Yeah. Next. Yeah.
Do you know how the show was created for Tales of the Crypt? The intro?
Oh, the intro. Yes, the intro is very interesting. Obviously, we were talking earlier, Danny Elfman wrote the song, music, and Bob Zemeckis, as you know, who did Forrest Gump and all these other Back to the Future stuff, is really into playing around with visual effects. So the opening starts with a big gate opens with a, gate at the very beginning where you see with the dragons on it, that gate, that's a model. Then it goes up onto a set as it goes up onto the porch. Then it goes into another set, which is the foyer. Then it goes into a CGI staircase. The staircase that they go down is animated. Then it goes back into a real set, into the Crypt Keeper set, which I have, one of the photos that I have is the Crypt Keeper sitting in that set. And so that part of it, until where the Crypt Keeper pops up, is all set. So it was really, really kind of cool. I mean, that's the first time somebody took all those different techniques and put them all together to make, one sequence. I think they won some awards for that opening sequence. They give out awards for, like the Dexter opening, I know has won some awards for that opening, and some other great shows have had some really cool. I won some awards for their openings, and Tales from the Crypt was nominated for a lot of Emmys over the years. Really, really. Back when the show first came on the air, cable shows weren't eligible for Emmys. So it was, kind of hard fought to get shows from cable series to get Emmys. It was harder for them. Now, of course, here, these Netflix series are even being nominated for Emmys because, let's face it, those awards should go to the shows that are the best shows, no matter where they're at, because it encourages them to make better shows as opposed to, let's just make shows for as many people, for the lowest common denominator. We want to make a show for as many people to watch it as possible. Well, we know how that works out. By trying to please everybody, you don't really please anybody, which I love about cable. It makes shows that are, that are specific for different audiences. And here, Walking Dead was just trying to make a show for what they thought would get horror fans, and it wound up being the most popular show on TV. Who knew? Zombies. It's a silly concept, but there it is, most popular show on television. I watched one episode where just like this, people were just having a regular conversation in the background. There's like zombies chained to a tree, and they just keep trying to walk to them, and they can't. They were just there the whole scene. I was just like, that's so funny, man. Those two actors were like, "Hey, Mom, I'm the guy who's chained to the tree." It's pretty funny what we do for a living, Any people aspiring to be actors or be in horror or direct? I know you told me you studied acting and directing, filmmaking, and ladies back there, you were saying? Special effects, yeah, awesome. The one thing that I love about horror too is it's still, they still do hands-on craft type special effects. It hasn't gone, computer-generated technology because, they don't, not only budget, but it just looks more real for what it matches more for the genre and what they're doing, which I think is really cool. Guys like Tom Savini are still doing that, and Kevin Yeager and all these guys, you know, they have to step up and do the other stuff too, because otherwise they can't compete, but it's very cool. Yeah, what kind of genre do you do horror or?
Sci-fi horror.
Sci-fi horror, very cool, very cool. I think you told me as well, you liked action comedy.
Action comedy, romance comedy, sci-fi, action,
Cool.
or animated.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yes?
How was it working with Arnold Schwarzenegger? He directed one, right?
Yeah.
How did that
Well,
happen?
you know, he's an interesting guy, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know. You know, what you see is what you get with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was that guy, you know, I mean, back in the day when he was a bodybuilder and stuff, you'd watch him on TV and he'd always be like, yeah, one day I'm going to be president, I'm going to be, and you're like, looking at this guy, you go, this guy's fucking nuts. That guy thinks he's taking too many steroids. What's wrong with that guy? But you know, you gotta love Arnold Schwarzenegger. Look at the career he built for himself. I mean, he really can't act, but he's so interesting to watch. You know, so who cares? You know, playing the Terminator, he does a great job playing the Terminator. So I guess he can, you know, act, you know, that way in that form. But it's like, you know, please don't do any more comedies, Arnold. But he's just, you know, what an interesting cat. And this guy came on, and whenever there was, you know, people that were in the scene with the Crypt Keeper, they would need me there to work off camera because they couldn't, like, have the puppeteers. It's very laborious to do stuff with the puppeteers, to talk to somebody when they're off camera, you know, so I would be there to act with whoever was there, whether it was Whoopi Goldberg or Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff. And we had that fun sequence where the Crypt Keeper is, again, is in a torn up t-shirt, he's got these bony little arms, and he's got like barbells made out of bones and skulls, and it's like, you know, it's like, come on, I'm going to pump you up. But he was a nice guy, he was very interesting. And he directed that episode about the guy who had all this money and he started buying, you know, the girl that he loved was more into the young, good-looking guy, so he kept buying his body parts until he became the young guy but poor, and the poor guy became rich and looked like the old guy. And she stayed with the old guy because she goes, well, you know, you're good-looking and all, but I need money. That's kind of cynical, right? I guess it's a bit true. gives a new term to gold digger. Next question. Yes.
Why did it end Tales from the Crypt?
Why did it end?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they did enough episodes for it to go into what they call syndication. When they make enough episodes to go into syndication, you know, I mean, it was on for HBO. That's a lot of episodes. There's probably more episodes of that than probably most shows that HBO has ever done, because the cable networks just don't have the budget to put, you know, back then especially, to put into a series. And each year, the money, more of the rights would go back to the guys who were making the show, but then they would also have to come up with more of the money to put into the show. So it just became too expensive to do more episodes. They had 90-some episodes, and they could play those, you know, 7 seasons of episodes. That's a lot of episodes for a cable series, especially. You know, and then obviously they made a deal to rebroadcast them on Fox Network for a while, which sadly, I mean, I like the fact that they were on the air, but it's sad because they're edited for content, for commercials and content, because it's broadcast television. And you know, I love the show intact without all that. FearNet has, and then it was the Sci-Fi Network, and now it's on FearNet, which will be back on the air on FearNet in April. And I think, I'm told, I don't know if this is true or not, some of you may know better than me, they show the episodes with commercials and edited, but then on their on-demand channel shows it uncut, from what I'm told. Not sure. But it's become a big, the face of FearNet, so that's kind of cool that it's back anyway. I mean, I'd love to see more episodes. Who knows? You know, maybe this other version that I was talking about will fail, and you know, they'll get smart and make it the way it was. They get Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino to launch the first 2 episodes or something. That'd be cool. I can dream, can't I? It could happen. It was a popular enough show that back in the day that they would have loved to have worked on a show like that. Everybody wanted to work on this show when it was on the air. Yeah.
Have you worked with him? Quentin Tarantino?
No, no. I briefly met him. I was doing Jack the Giant Slayer year before last. I was in London with Bryan Singer shooting that movie, and I was having dinner with Bryan and some of the other actors and stuff. And Quentin, he knows Quentin Tarantino, and he happened to be there, and he came over to the table and sat with us and introduced. I have a lot of friends that work with him, and he's supposedly very cool to work with. Loves actors, loves, when he hires somebody, it's because he loves what they do and he wants them to do that thing, He's supposedly really cool. He was very nice to talk to, but I couldn't call him my buddy or anything. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm a big fan of the Simpsons.
Uh-huh.
And I love their Halloween specials. I don't know. I think you should do a Halloween special, The Simpsons from Tales from the Crypt.
I'll give you a phone, you can call them up and see if we can get them to do that. I have worked on The Simpsons. I do animals on The Simpsons every once in a while. Santa's Little Helper and some other. They always have weird animals on The Simpsons. I did lemurs. I did rhinoceros. I did elephants. I did
You did Stampede.
Yeah, I did Stampede the elephant. I did a donkey that was in love with Homer. Really weird. I don't know what that was all about. These guys have such a fertile imagination, but it's weird because that show changes like entire writing staff and everything to keep it fresh every year, so many years, whatever. So it's like you'll work with the people and then all of a sudden they're gone. So then the next people have never worked with you. They don't, you're not in their mind. So it's like, and then all of a sudden they'll hire somebody that does know you and then they bring you in for it. It's a weird show. I never got paid what those regulars got paid on there. Those guys they're like filthy rich.
It's been going on for 25 years.
Isn't that amazing?
25 seasons. That's
amazing. That's just so amazing to be an animated series going up 25 years on the air.
Futurama already ended forever. This season they're going to do a crossover episode. At the end
Oh,
of
cool.
Between Futurama and Simpsons.
That's awesome. Yes?
You voiced a handful of characters. You mentioned Bugs Bunny and the Crypt Keeper.
Uh-huh.
From what I know, like the Ice King.
Ice King, I originated the voice of the Ice King for Adventure Time. It was weird because these guys, they were really new. They were like storyboard artists that like wrote something that they were like, this is really interesting. Let's throw this at the wall and see if it sticks. They originally were writing it for adults. And so they brought me in because they wanted the Ice King to be kind of, a little scary. So then we started doing it, and the show wound up being, a show that the Cartoon Network wanted for little kids. So they made the decision that I was too scary as the Ice King, the character I created, and instead of like saying, do you think you could tone it down and make him not so scary? They didn't do that. They just like, they do that in Hollywood. It was but I'm happy to say it's the only time I've ever been replaced on something like that. But it was for no other reason. I didn't do anything wrong. It was for no other reason than they changed the demographic on it. And they thought that, my Crypt Keeper type voice that I was doing was too creepy for it. So it's kind of funny the way those things work,
My question would have been, what do you do? What's your process to get into character? Because I know, I just finished playing Ultimate Alliance, Marvel, and you voiced Deadpool.
Deadpool, yeah.
Like, to do these things.
The bird with a mouth.
to get into characters like this.
You mean to create, auditioning for them, or when I'm actually acting them?
When you're acting, when you're there and you're like, okay, so I have this character, what do you do?
It's a lot of visualization for animation. I started in the theater, which is, theater is so completely different than television and film. You have so much rehearsal, you have time to really flesh out the character, and literally, not only, not only figuratively speaking, and build on that.